information regarding the business world and some of our lecture series that pertains to do on how we gain competitive advantages in our businesses. This afternoon, I will be leading the charge from this end. My name is Jibril Salahuddin. I'm the Director of Executive Education and Consultancy at the Nungo Business School. And I'll be taking us through the first path in competitive advantage, the first lesson in it. The lesson is actually divided into 3 paths. This is the first part on it that is going to take us an hour for the presentation, and we're going to have about 5 to 10 minutes of the question and answer session, and thereafter we round off. So without wasting our time, I will just take you straight into it. I will have to introduce to you the registrar of the school. She's on the platform. The RIT is also on the platform, and the other executive and faculty from the school have also sent them log on into the program this afternoon. So let me take you straight into the presentation without wasting much time. Beside birth, death, and taxes, competition is an unescapable part of life. There is no business you do, except, of course, if you're in monopoly. And in these days and time, monopoly have been wiped out. So when you look at this, death, and taxes, you can't escape competition. Competition will always be there, and we will have to deal with competition. And businesses are not actually created in vacuums. Businesses are created relative to competition. And when we craft business strategy, we craft business strategy relative to competition as well, because we don't craft business strategies in vacuums. If I ask you, what are your firm's competitive advantage? I'll probably get an answer like this. We have very great products. We have a great brand. We are innovative, we innovate consistently. Our product exceeds quality, and we provide excellent customer service. Yes, I've asked a number of corporate executives, C-class executives, about what they think is the firm competitive advantage. And these are the kind of answers they've come back to me with. But in all honesty, all of this may be very well true, that you have great products, beautiful brand, you innovate consistently, and your brand exceeds quality, and you have fantastic, excellent customer services. However, not one bit of this answer says anything about your competitive advantage. With all of this, you do not have any competitive advantage. You have to put them in the context. And so the question is, in the context of what? Because competitive advantage is entirely a function of whether you are better, faster, or cheaper relative to competition. Are you better than competition? Are you faster in delivery than competition? Are you cheaper as compared to competition? This is what gives you competitive advantage. Not that you have a big brand name, have a big brand base, have a fantastic product, have that. No. Relative to competition, are you better, faster, cheaper? It has nothing to do with how good a company is, or how great its products or services are, or its prices are in absolute terms. Mark my word, absolute terms. So how do we present this? Take a look. Look at these digital cameras, Nikon, Olympus, Canon, and Sony. Look at the 4. These are all excellent brands. Brand image is an equalizer for all of them. No one has a brand image that is exceedingly different from the other. So when you buy any of this brand, no competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is a relative concept, and it is also always market specific. The same company with the same product and service may enjoy competitive advantage in one market, but not in another market. So an American auto producer can enjoy a competitive advantage in America, but will not enjoy same thing in Japan. Or a Japanese auto producer may enjoy some level of competitive advantage in America, but will not enjoy the same thing in Japan. So it is also market relative and market specific. It's a relative concept, relative to competition, specific to markets. So let us look at Japanese car companies. And here let us take a look at three. We'll look at Toyota, Nissan, and Honda. Sorry, somebody's trying to buzz me on something. Let me check quickly. Okay. So let us look at these three products: Honda, Nissan, Toyota. All three make the most reliable cars. I mean, when you go to check a review, if you don't drive a Toyota, you do a review of Toyota or a Nissan or a Honda, and you discover that relatively reliable cars in the world. And rating agencies, even in America and Europe, routinely note that the reliability of this car's brand is significantly better than that of their American and European competitors. I mean, it's an open secret. They know. So you will say, relative to that market, American market and European market, these cars will have competitive advantage in relation to American cars or European cars. Now, let me flip the market angle side of it a little bit, and let's see exactly what we're looking at when we talk about competitive advantage. Toyota, Nissan, Honda do enjoy competitive advantage on the dimension of reliability over the American and their European counterpart brands. Suppose you live in Japan and find yourself in the market for a new car. You need to buy a new car in Japan. When you look at the option in front of you, you'll probably conclude that all these Japanese brands offer equally high level of reliability. All of them high level in terms of reliability. They're all reliable. If Toyota wants to increase its market share in Japan, it will have to create a competitive advantage on a dimension other than reliability. So she won't be looking at reliability again to gain competitive advantage in Japan. She will have to look at a competitive advantage in another sphere within Japan so that she can stay on top of Honda and Nissan. Now, having said this, let us take this as our first exercise. Take the case of a product or service that your company buys from a supplier. Compare the supplier to its two biggest competitors. Look at people who supply you items in your companies. And pick one supplier and compare it to two other competitors. And where does this supplier suffer from competitive disadvantage? Do the analysis on paper and pen now. Say, okay, in terms of reliability, in terms of price, in terms of fastness, where does this particular, if you compare three of them, look at them. Look at one, pick one, and compare them to two others and see where they suffer from competitive disadvantage. Now, number two, take your company, where you work, or where you own, or where you're the C-suite executive. Take your company and two biggest competitors to your company. In relative terms, does your company have a competitive advantage over this competitor? If so, what is it? And in what area does your company suffer from competitive disadvantage? You have to be honest to do this exercise. So take this and take a look at it, and you begin to understand exactly what we're talking about when we talk about competitive advantage. Now, having done that, how are you taking that down so that you'll be able to do it? Having done that, we'll do a summary of what we've learned in the first few minutes. Assuming that your company is not a monopoly, what is rarely, if ever, the case, how well you do depends not on how does your product and service are in absolute terms, but whether they are better and or less expensive for the customer in relative terms. 2, further, you need to make sure that your relative advantage is ongoing. Oh, we had a relative advantage yesterday. History. It must be ongoing, sustainable, and not transitory. Sustainable, ongoing, not transitory. And we have said, beside death, birth, and taxes, competition is an unescapable part of life. Of our business life, you can never escape competition. Now let's take a look at our second unit. Here we'll be looking at competition through disruption. Competition through a particular issue that we would like to mention here is that if you do not disrupt yourself, someone else will disrupt you. If you do not disrupt yourself, someone else will disrupt you. And when you are disrupted, it gets out of business. Airbnb illustrates how a company can enter an industry and succeed against dominant incumbents by disrupting the traditional rule of the game. So you can look at the game, what is the traditional rule in the game? And you then disrupt those traditional rules in the game. Airbnb actually did this, and they did it successfully. So founded in 2008, Airbnb enabled people to rent a spare bedroom or a space couch to another person at a price lower than what even budget hotels may offer. The cheapest hotel, the price that they can offer, Airbnb makes sure that they are able to offer something below that, much more below what the cheapest hotel can offer. So Airbnb had disrupted the lodging industry by redefining the concept of hotel. They looked at the lodging industry. Oh, I travel, I stay in an hotel, I lodge in an hotel. What do hotels do? What do hoteliers do? They now said, can we disrupt that? And they did. They gave it a shot and they disrupted the hotel industry and the hotelier. Instead of large institutions which may directly own or control thousands of rooms globally, Airbnb uses the power of the internet to enable almost anybody to become a hotelier. So almost anybody on earth can become an hotelier using the Airbnb model. And so what do they do? Through the internet, you can actually log in and say, I have a spare room, and somebody flying into your area can say, okay, so this is an hotel, and they can connect with you, and payment is being made. And we are always cheaper than the hotel in town. The hotel chain are now scrambling to figure out how to respond. They're struggling to see, how do we respond to this? So they're actually struggling for that. And generalizing from the Airbnb story, there are 3 different strategies that newcomers or existing players can deploy to destroy the current dynamics of an industry. So in the flip, we'll take a look at the strategies that newcomers or existing players can deploy to disrupt the current play. So see you in 1 minute. Okay, so welcome back. We will be looking at each of these strategies, and we'll try to look at them in how different companies have actually employed them to disrupt. We'll starting from the story of the Airbnb. So we'll move further quickly so that we can see how disruption takes place. So using competitive advantage as a destructive element, you can do one of three. One, decide who your target customer will be. Two, define what product and service you will offer. Three, designing the value chain through which you will create and deliver this product and services. You can alter any of these three, and when you alter any of these three, you'll be able to disrupt the market and gain a competitive advantage. Strategy one, let's call it D1. You dramatically re-engineer the value chain. You look at the value chain end to end, okay? And you say, how do we redefine this? How do we re-engineer this? Without much change in the product, not much change in the service, or to the target consumer. You are only redefining the value chain, not changing the product, not changing the service, and not changing the target consumers. Who did this? Amazon. Amazon actually did this. And this is how Amazon got started in 1994. There was nothing different about Amazon's customer or the books they purchase. What differentiated dramatically was Amazon's value chain. Unlike Borders or Barnes & Nobles, Amazon had no physical store. No physical store. So they never had a physical bookstore. It took order over the internet and shipped the books directly to the warehouse, from the warehouse. They took all their orders directly from the internet and they moved it straight from the warehouse to the consumers. As a result, Amazon could offer a dramatically wider selection and dramatically lower prices. And today, the rest is history. The rest is history. We all know how big Amazon is today. Amazon is much, much, much more bigger today than anything we could ever imagine in 1994. That is using the value chain to conceive the destructive idea to gain strategic advantage. So they use the value chain, and here I try to give you a picture of the value chain. So looking at what they had to do with their inbound logistic operation, outbound logistics, sales and marketing and services, all on there until their margin, they just re-engineer it, cut off the middlemen and bookstore and bookshops, take it out, and just deliver it straight. Disruption strategy number 2 is when you disrupt from the angle of product and service. So you dramatically redefine what product and service you will offer. Generally, this will also require a significant redesign of the value chain. You will do a redesign of the value chain as well, but may not call for a rethink about the targeted customers. You don't need to rethink the targeted customers. Now, you can take Starbucks, for instance. As the founder said, he has often said that Starbucks is not your typical cafe, but a third place other than your home, your office, and this is your top place where you need to hang out, where you can meet friends and your colleagues. So Starbucks outlets offer differently. They change the face of the product and they change the face of the service. So what do? They make sure that they have larger sitting areas. They provide free Wi-Fi, inviting you to linger rather than to rush out. Oh, you know, when fast food says, so what else do you need to do? They say, no, you can chill, take your time, bring out your computers, access Wi-Fi for free, take your coffee, enjoy yourself, invite your colleague, have meetings. The differentiation has enabled Starbucks to tap into a latent market needs and expand rapidly before competition could catch on. So they invited a lot of people into their place I mean, for people who need to go long distance, they rather call other people to meet together, to have a meet by in a Starbucks cafe, and over coffee they can discuss business activity, they can access their meal, and they move on. And before we know it, Starbucks became successful using competitive advantage, using a disruption idea or a strategy that has to do more with products and services. The third option called it disruption D3, and is to radically rethink all three elements of the business model. You rethink the target market, you rethink the product, and you rethink the service offered, and design of the value chain. So product and service, product itself, the customer, the service you offer, and the value chain. You disrupt everything. And this is what Steve Jobs did. Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak did when they launched the first Apple computer in the late 1970s. Instead of large corporations, Apple targeted individual and small businesses. Its computer was much smaller. They could fit on desktop, cost only $2,000, and did not need much hand-holding. Last but not the least, they were sold through retail shops rather than by dedicated salespeople sent to companies. You just put them on the shelf of stores and you can go in and buy one. The result has been a complete transformation of the entire computer industry. So here, they rethink the entire system, and disrupt based on looking at the total value chain. So let's take another exercise. If your industry, in your industry or an industry that you would like to enter, how might you dramatically disrupt one or more elements of the traditional business model? So take 1 minute, think about this, then I come back. Thank you. Thank you for still being there. So try and do this exercise, or you put it down, and when you go back, you can look at this and, look at it and say, try and provide an answer to this and compare to what you're currently doing. And it could give you an insight into how you can disrupt your current industry. However, you must understand that competitive advantage is never permanent. It's never permanent. It's something that you consistently need to think about, and new people will come in with new disruption, and you need to stay on top of the game. There is what we call the fat, dumb, and happy approach. One of the biggest mistakes that successful companies make is to become fat, dumb, and happy. So no, we're comfortable where we are. Nobody can take us out of this place. No, we're happy with our margins. We don't need to change anything. No, we're the leaders of this industry. We don't need to do anything. We're happy. We're happy with what we're doing. Our cash flow is good. Sales is good. Market is good. We're beautiful. We're doing very well. Our employees are happy. We are happy. Very soon you will be unhappy if you don't think about consistent innovation, consistent competitive advantage that you can acquire and move forward. So look at the retailer, Kmart. Both Kmart and Walmart were founded in 1962. Both companies, same year, 1962. 20 years later, Kmart was actually bigger than Walmart. Yet by 2000, Walmart will far outdistance Kmart. Since then, the gap between the two has actually widened rapidly. Same company, they started together, Kmart become a leader. But after 20 years, Walmart did not only catch up, but became a distant leader that Kmart has to be gasping for air. If that's too far for you to actually comprehend, you can look at another example and look at Nokia, a mobile phone. So let's take a look at Nokia. A little background. These are contractors to Motorola. They used to supply safety boots to Motorola. But looking at what Motorola was doing, they now thought, no, we can do it better. And they started, you know, Motorola, this long radio that they put in your belt, and it's actually touching your abdomen. Yeah, so they were contractors to them. But they moved away from there, and they began to do their own first generation radio. And within a very short time, Nokia became a cell phone of choice in the world. But what happened to them? They became fat, dumb, and happy. How? As recently as 2008, Nokia was a global giant with a nearly 40% share of the worldwide mobile phone markets. They were a gorilla in the cell phone industry. Barely 5 years later, facing an onslaught from Apple and Samsung, Nokia was struggling to survive and had to sell itself to a richer parent, such as Microsoft. Because of what? She became fat, dumb, and happy, and time just passed after. She couldn't innovate again. She wasn't thinking. And rather than dying, she rather sell herself away, or she would die. So their alternative was to keep withering away and die. As the Kmart and Nokia example vividly illustrates, competitive advantage is never permanent. It's never permanent. You have to consistently rethink it. Every company must always be on the lookout for 4 types of disruption. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 types of disruption. Each type of disruption can pose a potentially serious threat to competitive advantage. Each of them can pose a serious threat to competitive advantage. However, viewed proactively, each can also represent a major opportunity. It can be a threat, but if you look at it proactively, it can also be a major advantage, an opportunity for you. Disruption type 1, structural change in the demand side environment. There will always be the supply side, which you as a company is providing. There will also be the demand side, which your consumer are providing. Now, the demand side environment might be that the population is getting younger and they want newer things, and you're still producing the old stuff. They will move away from you. Now, so let's take a look at the toothpaste industry. Before now, you want something to keep your mouth fresh in the morning, so your breath good, and you can move on. And that is all that you want toothpaste for. But as the community become more affluent and the youth population gets larger, they begin to ask more beyond freshness of the mouth. They want a toothpaste that will not only give them that freshness of the mouth, they also want a toothpaste that will make sure that their gum and their teeth are healthier and whiter. So it means demanders move away from just freshness of the mouth to health concern as well as cosmetics. They want something brighter, fresher, good health, and cosmetics is coming. So if you're not able to provide this, you will wither away. So they go from looking at basic consideration to other functionalities in your product. Oh, in those days, you can just provide a car and people will drive into those cars. Today, the car must pass a lot more of tests before it is offered. And the consumer who is out today to buy cars, they are much more knowledgeable than the consumer of yesteryears. They will have read so much about the cars on the internet before they even approach the car stand that they want to buy a car. They also want added functionalities. Does it have an ABS, power steering, fuel economy, cross space, and so much that they request for? So that's disruption number one, looking at structural change in the demand side environment. Number two, they want smarter, faster improvement in key capabilities. So using the Kmart and Walmart, the unseating of the Kmart by Walmart represents just this type of disruption. In the first 2 decades, Kmart grew more rapidly by focusing on the urban markets. They went into towns, cities, while Walmart was concentrating on the hinterland. So they were looking more at the hinterland. And they had slower growth and more challenging growth in the rural area. But with those challenging growth in the rural area, they were taking new learnings. In the rural markets, which forces Walmart to become much smarter than Kmart at supply chain management. When the former turned its attention to the urban markets in the 1980s, Kmart found itself superiorly and seriously handicapped. They couldn't compete because these guys have perfected their supply chain management in the rural area. So bringing it into the city, they could use it easily to unseat competition. Its cost structure was significantly higher, and it was powerless to fight back against Walmart's consistently lower prices. So that is the second disruption type that you can use. It is called the smarter and faster improvement in key capabilities. The third disruption type is when you look at when a capable competitor from another market decides to enter into your own territory. As a nation, we're going to suffer from this very shortly with the signing of the African Free Trade Zone agreements. Competitors from across of Africa that have a different taste and a different competitive approach to us will come into our market. And so everybody will need to sit up. And this is what happened to Peugeot, Steyr, and Volkswagen when the Japanese started entering the Nigerian car market in the late 80s. Until then, the Nigerian car companies were doing very well, competing with each other with roughly similar capabilities. However, since the entry of Toyota, Nissan, and Honda into the Nigerian market, the much greater reliability and the lower cost of their car has proved to be long-running nightmare for the Nigerian players. So Peugeot, history. I'm sure a lot of us have seen the picture of the Peugeot 504 on this screen after a very long time. In the last 10 years, I've not sat with anybody who said to me he wants to go and buy a Peugeot. People will discuss other cars, but the name Peugeot never come up. And I've not seen them saying that they want to go and buy a Volkswagen. In fact, when you see some Volkswagen brand on the road today, like the Beetle, you have to take another look. So, is it? And that's what happened with this type of disruption. When competitors from another market who have already gained a lot of competitive advantage decide to come into your market, they can disrupt you completely. Disruption type number 4, I call it a radical change in technology. Here, this is what happened to Nokia, which did not anticipate how the emergence of broadband mobile technology, such as 3G and 4G, will transform the potential capability of handheld devices. Nokia was still thinking on traditional radio. They were looking at basic radio communication, and at best, 2G communication. They never thought 3G will come, 4G will come, and this is even the era of 5G, where what you hear via mobile content is beyond voice and SMS, it's gone into digital content. And that is why they couldn't cope. BlackBerry played the same way. They made their system locked up, they couldn't play, they couldn't innovate, and disruption caught up with them, and they had to die. So the question you have to ask yourself is this: what possible risk does your company face regarding each of the 4 types of competitive disruption? On a proactive basis, how might your company unleash each type of disruption on your competitors? In sum, change is the only constant out there. One should never, ever become complacent. Never. In anything, never become complacent. There used to be an almighty NITEL in this country. They were very, very complacent. Today, they are history. So I'll take another minute, reflect on this, and I'll be back. Thank you. Welcome back. These are questions that you need to actually take back and ponder on it. They are very important and they're very instrumental to the survival as well as staying ahead of competition for your company and for your own strategic competitive advantage. You need to stand ahead of competition at all time, and you need to ensure that at all time you are thinking of how to move your company forward. And for you to do that successfully, you have to be in an innovative mood, looking for competitive advantage at all time. Never allow yourself to grow into a point where you become bigger, fatter, happy, and dumb. Don't get to that. Always innovate. Always look at the way that you can actually move the envelope at all time. You can do this via innovation across the value chain, looking at the product, looking at the market, and looking at your delivery. Don't ever agree that you have the best in the market at any time. Always look for ways for continuous improvements. If you fail to grow, then you must decay. We will be looking at the 2 phases of competitive advantage in our part 2 of this presentation. Until then, we will take question and answer from you now, and in another 10 to 15 minutes, we'll round off this. And in Nungu Business School, we are so happy and excited to have you around this afternoon, and we appreciate your patience. We appreciate the maturity that you have shown all through this presentation, and we'll see you again. But before then, let's have the question and answer session. Thank you. Let the question come in. You can put them on the chat box, and we'll pick it from there, and we'll do justice to it. Thank you. Okay, so the questions are coming in. The first question, look, the first questioner is asking, and thank you for this. We appreciate it. It says, I want to ask, why do Nigerian start-up companies hardly survive? The answer is, it is not peculiar to Nigeria. It is not peculiar to Nigeria. Universally, less than 20% of startup will see their second anniversary. And that is very obvious. And what you also find is that most of the startup, a lot of people start up based on emotion. They don't start up because there's a real need or a real problem that they want to solve. A lot of people also start up because they want to make profits. You don't start up a business because the only idea in your mind is that you just want to make profits. You must start up because there is a problem that you want to solve. Once there's a challenge on ground and you can solve it, you will make money ordinarily. Thirdly, in developing economies, there are more opportunities. Nigeria, for instance, you have more opportunities to start up a business than somebody in the United States. Nigeria today is just like the United States or America and Europe in the 70s. So you have a lot of opportunities. What you'll be providing as a product today, the government has already provided it out there. So here you have a lot of opportunities here. Unfortunately, we do not have enough people who are skilled to start business. In Lungu Business School, we have a program on entrepreneurship. One of the challenges we discovered was that while we are admitting the students, a lot of the people have not even have a good conception of what they want to do. We had a clinic that we take care of people with micro businesses that have challenge, and we offer them free consultancy. When we ask them when they come in for this free consultancy clinic, and we ask them for documentation, they don't have anything written. Some of them will tell us, no, I will go and come back in 2 months, I will go and prepare documents. The document they were supposed to prepare ahead of the business is what they were now going to prepare 2 or 3 years, or a year after they've started the business and they've run into trouble. Fourthly, we're not very good managers of cash. We spend everything. We spend everything, and that could be very dangerous for us. And so we are involved in all unnecessary things, all sorts of parties, the ones we are invited and the ones we are not invited, and we go in and we blow up both our working capital and the profits, and we run into trouble quickly. And that's why a lot of us are not bankable, no records. We don't have a record between what we're doing. A lot of us don't have record, and there's no segregation between our business finance and our personal finances. So that's some of the areas where we have found one thing. My friend and my brother is also asking a question here. He said, what is value chain development and how does it assist business growth, especially in retail pharmacy? The value chain in retail pharmacy seems to even be much more. I've always wondered how pharmaceutical companies in Nigeria don't do exceptionally well. I have an elder brother, pharmacist Zachariah, and anytime I have a discussion with him, and he's an old pharmacist. He's an old pharmacist. He's a pharmacist with more than 20 years of experience, more than 25 years of experience. What am I talking about? And anytime I engage him and he speaks to me about what they're doing, there's a huge gap, a very huge gap in the pharmaceutical retail chain. The sourcing, from product sourcing, if you look at it, if you take the chain end to end, from product sourcing, there's a problem. There's a problem from sourcing. From sourcing to transportation, there's a problem. And if you look at the way the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria has also restricted what pharmaceutical outlet must be in a particular area, there's a challenge. Today, a pharmacist in Nigeria could source a fake drug without knowing, could source a counterfeited drug without knowing, could source a look-alike without knowing, could source a gray import without knowing. And so there's a huge challenge in the value chain. When we get into the part 2, I will incorporate the challenge. I will use the pharmaceutical industry in Nigeria, the challenge with the value chain, as part of the presentation I'm going to make, so that I'm not delving into another presentation now. But I promise you, in the second part of it, I will put it in, because we've itemized each of this problem. Is something that the faculty have sat down together and taken a look at the pharmaceutical industry in Nigeria. We will now incorporate it into what we want to do in the part 2 of our presentation. So I hope you will be around there, Prof. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. The fact that the questionnaire asks many times for the presentation, in the example of Toyota, Nissan, and Honda, will degree of reliability not be competitive advantage for them in Japan? No. The degree of reliability will be so close. They'll be so close that it will be hygiene. Because the degree of reliability is just so far apart. It's like somebody offering a product that is 10 points, another person offering 9.9 and 9.8. Hygiene, same 10, same 9. They will all pass for same 10, same 9. And that's why they don't actually make a fundamental difference. But if somebody's degree of reliability is 5 and the next person is 9, then there's a wide gap. And that will make a meaning. But without that, it won't make any great meaning. The exercise number 1 is for you to actually work on. So when you work on it and you want to share with us, we have an email there which the registrar has shared via the chat box, and we can take a look at it for you and we can make a comment for you. And this is part of the free consultancy that we do. Thank you, Prof. Dr. Femi Akimbola's comment. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Suleiman Show. Yes, absolutely. He says, thank you for the presentation. My question has to do with blue ocean strategy as part of competitive advantage. Can this also be explored to stay ahead of competition? Yes, the concept is simple and it's straightforward. There is a concept called the blue ocean and the red ocean strategy. The blue ocean and the red ocean. And the view is that when you are in the blue ocean, there are less competitor. The field is either brown or green, and you can compete with less hassles. In the red ocean, everybody is presenting the same thing, and everybody is knocking heads together, and it's bloody red. You are fighting tooth and nail, and everybody is losing price. Yes, there you can use that to craft a competitive advantage for a newcomer who is coming into the market, and you can use it to boycott the market. Let's give an instance with the Nigerian market. There's a product in the market called Biggie. It's a soft drink. What do? They looked at a red ocean and they said, can we renovate this red ocean to become a competitive advantage for us? And they said, okay, we need to find a blue ocean within the red for ourselves where we can compete. So what do the people want? The people want more products, more in terms of volume, for a lesser price. Okay? And so they did that and they pushed the product into the market. And they were successful in their own rights. They were successful. For how long they could hold, we don't know. The jury is out. When the jury comes back, we'll be able to do an analysis of that. Business promoters, that's it. Mr. Babola is asking, how does one get the listening ear of business promoters who often come into a business with wrong assumption? You see, most promoters, and this is the challenge we have, most promoters come into the business field with wrong assumptions. Now, it is difficult for you to say, once you say to them, this is a wrong assumption, because they've held it so dearly in their heart, they think it is good. tell them to do a simulation on paper. Tell them to do a simulation of that business on paper. You always see that apart from the business, there is no simulation. Now, if they don't simulate that business on paper and show them the simulation, they have a lot of fantasy in their head. Once we do this, we don't put it in the market. Everybody will just start buying. Everybody will just start buying it. Those are the ideas in their head, and they're looking at some impossible and crazy numbers, and that's why they burn out quickly. So you need to tell them, look, can we slow down here a little bit? Show them the numbers again, do a simulation, and share the numbers with them. And I think that will help. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. He said, thank you for the presentation. My question is, in what way can one gain competitive advantage when one is selling a quality product that is priced higher than my established competitor? It means you didn't follow this presentation from the beginning. Your price, what you call quality, what you have referred to as quality, you have to be careful with it. Quality must not be defined by you. Quality must be defined by the market. Does the market want your product that you have called quality, or they want something lesser than what you have called quality? And that's why we say you have to sell to the market, not selling to yourself. Especially in the IT industry, most time we sell to ourselves. No, I've designed a fantastic app. You're not going to be the user. Allow the market that's going to be the user to determine whether they are willing to pay for it. Because don't forget, your price is the floor and your demand is the ceiling. And in between it, your cost is the floor, your demand is the ceiling, and in between it is your price and what people perceive as your quality or otherwise. Thank you. Oh, even my boss is thanking me, Charles. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, everybody is going to get a copy. All the people that have registered are going to get a copy of this presentation. We're going to send it to your email. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you. We're going to send it to the email of everybody. And like we said, in this year, we will have a webinar once every month, and we'll make sure that you have the copy. Thank you, Shola Adeyemi, my colleague. We'll make sure that everybody has a copy of this, and we will send it out so that everybody will have a copy. And you can come back to us if you feel that for that question on it. On this note, I thank you very much. I think we've, yes, sorry, one is coming in. Oh, it's from Professor Tajuddin Adebayo. How can you influence positively the shakers and movers among the senior officers of your company from buying your innovative idea if it seems to be far behind you? You have to sell ideas. People say selling. When we talk about selling, you need to listen to Dr. Charles. He's here on this platform. Charles Levuna is here on this platform. He always talk about selling internally. He calls it selling internally. I've listened to him twice on how you sell internally and gain attention. There's a full course on Nuru Business School on that. And honestly, you need to listen to Charles. Maybe we need to also talk to Charles so that he can bring this out again and talk to us about how to sell internally and gain attention. Charles has a very fantastic presentation on that, and I'm sure he's going to listen. He's going to be happy to present to us. How can you relate with competitive advantage to the service industry, like law firm? The people that have sold themselves the least are the lawyers. And we have a product for professionals, surveyors, doctors, lawyers, and on competitive advantage. You must have something that you can deliver faster, better, and cheaper. And you must look at that as an element that you can use in the law firm. Thank you very much, and good afternoon. We've taken 2 or 5 minutes out of our time that we've promised. We want to stay within the time, and we thank you. Thank you, and have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.